Good evening, or whatever the time is for you now. Now it's time to talk about a new insight that has been making itself clearer in the experience. So there's a curious thing in the human mind which is thinking. And I don't know about you, but for me, it never occurred to me to actually look at my thoughts and to see what they are and to see with clarity the nature of the thinking apparatus, what it is that is the thinking, what's assuming the form of the thinking, the alive beingness which is moving, and we call the movement thinking. Assuming shapes, assuming the forms of different pictures, mental sounds, voices, memories. The regular thinking we all know. And so, in life, I was basically just reacting to my own thoughts as though they were something separate from me. And so within the totality of my inner mental landscape, there was two parts. The actual thoughts or the thinking that seemed to be somehow outside of me, in front of me. The autonomous movement of the mind, the autonomous thinking, and even the voluntary thinking, so to speak, or the inner voice, the voice in the head. Because that voice also I was experiencing as kind of half my own voice and half just happening to me, like I was listening to it. And I think it's like this for most people, to begin with. And so, even when the spiritual searching or seeking had begun, and even after significant changes within the consciousness and the identifying or the non-identifying mechanisms had happened, the nature of mind hadn't still made itself clear. Even though the kind of ego self had disappeared to a large extent, and I'm not just talking about the expressions of the ego self, because those could still be present, but they're experienced now without the ego self as just pure expressions that are not hanging on to any central ego selves. So they're just kind of suspended expressions of not the ego but the total consciousness, like separate fractions that aren't being held together by anything. Free-flowing rays of spontaneous movements. So even though those could be there and there was no identification with the movements of the mind, the actual nature of the mind itself, and the mind just means experience, because all experience is basically not physical in nature. And so, for me at least, mental would be closer to what it actually is. Even though that's actually a terrible description, but it's way more accurate than physical. You could say physicality is only mental, and mental nature is also a concept, but what mental means is it's consciousness. It's not physical. It's created. It's a creation of the mind. It's imaginary. It's self-alive. Alive in itself. Self-perceiving, self-existing, self-containing experiences. Could be called mental experiences, exactly like in a dream. A lucid dream where you realize that the entire totality of the experiencing field is the one mind, is your mind. It's the only conscious entity in the situation, even though it could appear as many different people and animals and places and aliens and all kinds of different agents. You know that it's basically all just your mind. And so that's the first realization, is that it's all mental, it's all consciousness, it's all it's basically all just happening to you. There's never been the world history, there's never been a physical world of planets, there's never been any of the world you imagined you were living in. Like, that entire thing is one single thought. And so, once you kind of begin to see through that a little bit, an interesting thing begins to show itself, which is that now that you're kind of alone and suspended in yourself, turned in on yourself all the time, there's not that many things to be doing. And so the nature of consciousness begins to become more interesting. And it's, even if you're not interested in it at all, it's just naturally interesting because it's the only thing that you're experiencing all the time. And so, even without mental or egoic interest in the nature of reality, the nature of reality begins to exert itself by itself, begins to know itself even more thoroughly, even more clearly, and ever transcending what it is. And so, what's the curious thing about reality and mind? The curious thing is a really simple thing. And to put it simply, it's time for you and I, and for all of us, to reclaim our own mind. It's time to regain our power. It's time to return to ourselves energetically. It's time to feel into the mind that is here, that is penetrating every single experience that is present and alive. And what does it even mean? Well, it means all kinds of things, but there's a few hallmarks that are, at least for me, they often come as a side effect of being especially aware of all mental movements as literally being me, and there being zero autonomous movements in this reality. And so each and every mental movement begins to feel less in front of me, because it's instinctually clear that that which is moving is actually myself, and the perception of that movement is not coming from any other movements that are being present. A movement is not perceiving other movements. And so, for example, sensations or perceiver thoughts are not perceiving so-called autonomous thinking or automatic thinking or daydreaming. There is no autonomous thinking. It's all your being. But in order to get any benefit out of this, what needs to happen is that you need to actually look into the moving thing. What's moving? When you imagine that you are thinking, like what's actually thinking? What even is thinking? What's happening? So let's look into this. And having any thoughts, it doesn't matter what the thought is saying or what it's looking like. The situational thoughts or memory thoughts of places, of people, of faces, of anything visual, it's the consciousness, it's the mind, it's your mind. It is you that's kind of assuming the form of the thought. It's kind of like the thought itself is actually alive in order to show itself to you as an alive thought, an alive little being. And so when you become aware of the aliveness of your mind, that your mind is not just a dead mental machine, it's actually an alive consciousness, then it becomes extremely difficult to keep on thinking that a specific set of thoughts and sensations is the owner of the whole. And so, becoming aware of the aliveness in every mental perception is actually eroding the boundaries that have been thought inside yourself. And so it's an extremely powerful thing to do, especially after the mind is already calmed down somewhat. Because at first it could be kind of difficult to do this because the mind's it's too outwardly oriented. But even so, you can actually kind of feel into the aliveness of the moving mind. It's kind of like Play-Doh, or, you know, where you can create these little sculptures, but then you can imagine that the sculpture is actually alive and it's changing shapes. First, it's a memory of, it's assuming the form of the memory of your childhood home. And it takes a certain kind of aliveness to be able to move intelligently and assume that form so it looks exactly like that, and to uphold it, to keep being it for the duration of the thought. And then to morph and change into something totally different. It's unalive. Anything that moves is alive. If it moves, it's alive. And there's nothing here but moving things. There's moving. This is all moving. It's all moving, it's all alive. And all it takes is just to kind of feel into it. It's stupidly simple. But for some reason, it just kind of doesn't even register. It's easy, it's the case for every human. But when you begin to do this, I will guarantee you that you will begin to experience states of being that are so completely yourself that you have never felt anything like that in your whole life or in any of the previous lives. Because if you did experience this in a previous life, there would not be anything after that. It would be total melting, dissolving into this one absolute relativity where there's no base, no center point, no center, no centers anywhere, no center of existence. Not mental centers, not physical centers, not perceivable centers, not perceiving centers. No agents, no personal feeling in this sensory field. Your sensory field is not a sensory field and it's not yours. When you look into anything, when you look at a wall, that sight is not a result of a human looking at a wall. It's a spontaneous creation of a consciousness that's not personal in any way. It's completely free. It's universal. And the universality is only in reference to the personal thing. But actually it's way more close than universal, because it's you. And of course it's you. It's always been just you. It's always been just you. And to deny it is to feel separate. How else could it be? It could be a hard truth to assimilate, because it means to let go of the idea of other people, to let go of the idea of being a human, of being a self, of being able to perceive, of being able to act. All those go away. You basically die. That which you had been thinking was your sensory field and your current experience, that raw data stays, but it stops being yours and it stops being perceptions, because there's no biological entities that are receiving any of this sensory input at this current moment. There's literally nothing receiving any of this, and never has been. And so, here we are. And a feeling of coming home is there when you let go of. Just let go. It's all it takes. Just let it all go. Just let it go. There's not even anything left to let go of. It's just this. It's you, it's me. It's no one. It's It's nothing. It's everything. It's free. It's boundless. It doesn't make sense. There's no mind, no rational thought, no sequences, no before and after, just this. No mind. It's crazy. It's literal craziness. It's crazy talk. It's just crazy talk. It's insanity. It's insanity in the best possible way. It's to lose the mind entirely, to lose every structure of the mind. You're not the limitations you've been imagining yourself to be. Just let go. You're not the limitations you've imagined yourself to be for so long. Trust me on this. It's all good. It's all going to turn out just fine. It's all good. It's truth. It's you. It's this.